A street girl asked, "If I sing well, will you give me food?" What happened next melted hearts. She stood barefoot on a crowded street, holding a tiny guitar made of broken wood, her eyes shining with a strange mix of fear and hope. People rushed past her, businessmen, shoppers, families. Nobody noticing the little girl whose stomach had been empty for 2 days. Finally, she gathered courage and stepped forward to a man eating at a roadside stall. With a trembling voice, she asked, "Agar main akagaon. Takia much kana danji?" The man froze. He wasn't expecting those words, nor the innocence behind them. In that moment, the noise of the street faded. All he saw was a starving child desperately trying to trade her voice for survival. But what happened next wasn't just surprising. It melted the hearts of everyone standing there. Because sometimes, one small act of kindness becomes a story the whole world needs to hear. The day had begun like any ordinary afternoon in the busy marketplace. Cars honked, people bargained loudly, and the aroma of street food floated lazily in the air. Yet amid all this movement, one small figure stood still, a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, wearing a torn yellow dress and clutching a makeshift guitar made of wires and wood. She wasn't begging like other street children. Instead, she was watching people, as if waiting for the right moment. Her name was Riha. She had been roaming the streets for days, searching for food but refusing to stretch her hand out for charity. Her mother once told her, "Beta izat kakana hamish amenat se miltahai." Those words were the only thing keeping her spirit alive. She believed she still had something to offer, even if it was just her voice, but that day had been especially harsh. No one paid her attention. Two boys mocked her broken guitar, and a shopkeeper pushed her away for standing near his counter. Yet Riha kept whispering to herself, "Mangasok tihun. Shayad kisi ko akalage." Finally, hunger overwhelmed her. She walked toward a middle-aged man standing near a food stall eating biryani. Gathering all the courage in her tiny body, she tugged at his shirt sleeve. The man turned around sharply, expecting a beggar. Instead, he saw fear in her eyes, but also pride. "Uncle," she said softly, "Agar main akagaan. Tukia much kana di denj." The man blinked, unsure how to react. He looked at her broken guitar, the trembling hands holding it, the empty hope in her voice. People around them slowed, listening. "Kia kaha tamni?" The man asked gently. She swallowed. "Mir paz pays nahi. Par main gana gasak tihun. Opko akalage tu." Kana ddg yega. For a moment, the man said nothing. Something inside him cracked open. Maybe it was guilt, maybe compassion. But before he could respond, the girl lifted her tiny guitar, took a deep breath, and began to sing. Her voice wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect. But it was pure, painfully pure. A sound full of longing, innocence, and hunger. The crowd fell silent. Even the shopkeepers turned their heads. It was as if the whole street paused to listen to a child singing not for money, but for survival. The man felt his throat tighten. He had never heard anything so fragile, so honest. And in that moment, he knew he couldn't let this child walk away unnoticed. What he did next changed everything. As Riha finished the last trembling note of her song, the street remained unusually quiet. The man, whose name was Reef, stared at her with wide, emotional eyes. He felt something he hadn't felt in years, a deep sense of responsibility. He slowly bent down to her level. "Beta timni surf gana nahi gaya. Timni dil hiladia." Riha looked down shyly, unsure whether she had earned her meal. Reef gently placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "Tum kana hai nahi. Pura thal deserve kardi ho." He turned to the food stall owner. "Bai, is baki kojo kuchbi kana hai didu?" Bill Mera, the shopkeeper, nodded, moved by the moment. Riha's eyes widened as a warm plate of biryani was placed before her. She held the spoon, but her hands shook so much she could barely take a bite. "Aram se beta," Reef said softly. "Koi chine wala nahi." As she began eating with the desperation of a child who hadn't tasted real food in days, people gathered around. Some filmed the scene, others simply watched with softened hearts. A woman brought her a juice box. A man offered to buy her new clothes. But Riha kept her gaze low, uncomfortable with attention. She only whispered, "Shukriya. Shukriya." Once she finished eating, Reef sat beside her. "Beta, tum kahan ready ho?" She hesitated before answering. "Mir pasgar nahi, ami. Kuchmunts pehul guzar gayi. Ab main ganaga kar hai guzar kardi hun." Reef felt a hollow pain in his chest. A child alone on the streets, hungry, vulnerable, but still trying to earn with dignity. He couldn't walk away now. "Aka, yibatao," he said gently, "tum school jana chadi ho?" Her reaction was heartbreaking. She froze, eyes widening as if he had offered her the moon. "School? Kya main yasak tihun?" "Bilkul," Reef said firmly. "Kya nahi? Tum har hak hai." He paused. "Beta agar tum chaho. Main tumhari matted kar saktahun." Gana Tumhara talent high. Parpad hai Tumhara future Banayagi, tears pooled in her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like this, with respect, with warmth, with belief. Before she could respond, another voice came from the crowd, Hambi Matted Karanj. And then another, main uniform La Dunga. And another, main guitar Dilwa Data Hoon. Within minutes, a full circle of people stood around her, offering support. The street that had ignored her minutes earlier was now fighting to uplift her. Riha stood silently, overwhelmed for the first time in months. She felt seen. She felt safe. She felt human. And this was only the beginning. News of the little girl with the broken guitar spread quickly. The video someone had recorded went viral within hours. People all over the city began asking, "Who is this child? How can we help?" The next morning, Reef found Riha sitting near the same food stall, hugging her guitar. When she saw him, she jumped up with a smile. "Uncle. May not ka wait kar rahi thi." Reef knelt beside her. Beta, aj say to Makeli Nahi, he had already spoken to a local NGO that helped homeless children. They agreed to provide shelter, education, new clothes, and counseling for Riha. But Arif wanted to make sure she felt comfortable. "Beta," he said gently, "you lagache hain. Inka kam hai bacho ki matted karna hai. Tumhari bi zindagi better baniyenge." Riha looked scared. "Uncle, kia may nop say milti rahunji?" Arif's heart squeezed. Jab marzi, Beta. Main tumhara guardian hoon ab. Her face lit up. As they walked toward the NGO van parked nearby, a reporter approached. "Kia hum is story ko share kar sokt hain? Login ko pada chalna chahai kindness ka sar kia hoda hai." Riha held Arif's hand tightly. He nodded. "Agar yes story kisi or batch keys indigi betal sakti hai. Tuzer or." The reporter knelt down and asked, "Beta kal jab op ni ganagaya. Op ko kesa lag rahada?" Riha thought for a moment. "Mujdar lag rahada. Par muj you meet thee. You meet koi muj sunliga." And indeed, someone did. At the NGO center, volunteers greeted her warmly. She was given new clothes, a warm bed, and a real guitar, not made of broken wood, but a proper one. When they handed it to her, she stared at it in disbelief. "Yeah, Marahai," she whispered. "Jihan," a volunteer smiled. "Optim just in chaho gasok tiho." That night, Riha lay in her new bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in months, she slept without fear of hunger, cold, or loneliness. She knew life wouldn't be perfect, but it had changed for the better. And it all began with one question: "If I sing well, will you give me food?" But what she received was far more than a meal. She received family, future, and hope. If this story touched your heart, share it now, because kindness grows only when it's passed on. Follow for more emotional and inspiring stories.